Ten of the largest riots ever. 2011 London riots. Also known as the UK riots, the London riots began in early August 2011 following a police shooting which outraged the local population in North London. A crowd of 300 protesters soon became violent when police failed to address their concerns. For 6 days, the riots grew and spread across London and several other English cities, including Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool. Rioters burned cars, buses, and buildings in addition to looting and battling the police. Football matches were cancelled and 48,000 stores, shops, and businesses were either looted or forced to close. By the time order had been restored and the crowds dispersed, 100 homes were destroyed and 5 people killed. The 2013-2014 Ukrainian riots. In November 2013, residents in Kiev began to protest in response to the government's decision to align itself more closely with Russia. Protests quickly turned into full-out riots, which went on until January 2014 when the situation became a full-on revolution. For the most part, riots erupted in response to harsh laws enacted by the government and perceived extreme force used by riot police. The result was that rallies of up to 200,000 people quickly turned into riots as the crowds vented their frustration and anger at the authorities. The Bombay riot. From December 1992 to January 1993, the Indian capital of Mumbai was gripped by large-scale riots between Muslims and Hindus. What caused this? A large rally made up of Hindus had marched on the Barbi Mosque and destroyed it because they argued it lay on sacred Hindu land. Rioting broke out across the country as mobs of thousands of Hindus and Muslims attacked each other and destroyed numerous religious buildings. Police and military units, desperate to quell the violence and keep the warring factions apart, often came under direct attacks themselves and resorted to firing on the crowds. By the end of January, rioting had generally stopped with 900 deaths and countless houses, mosques, and government buildings destroyed. The 1967 Detroit riot. In late July 1967, 82 Detroit residents were celebrating the return of friends who had served in Vietnam at an unlicensed establishment. When police raided the building in the early hours of the morning, the crowd turned on them. The police initially fled, and the party-going group evolved into a mob which began looting nearby buildings and burning cars. Out of control, the National Guard and even the 82nd Airborne Division were called in to help and often became engaged in shootouts with rioters. After 5 days, the estimated 10,000 rioters had been dispersed, with 43 people killed, over 7,000 arrested, and 3,000 buildings looted or burned. 1968 Holy Week uprising. After the April 4th assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, communities across the United States rose up in protest. In some cities like Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Chicago, large-scale riots broke out as bands numbering in the thousands vented their anger and frustration. Federal soldiers were called in to back up the local police forces, and despite the scale of the riots, deaths were kept at a few dozen, which was relatively low when compared to the other riots in the 1960s America. The damage was extensive, however. Over several days of protests and riots, thousands of businesses and homes were looted and burned down, with thousands of people injured. 2002 Gujarat riot. A decade after the infamous Bombay riot, the Hindu and Muslim populations of India once again rioted. In February 2002, in western India, a Muslim mob attacked and set fire to a train carrying Hindu pilgrims, resulting in 59 deaths. The attack prompted Hindu mobs to seek revenge over the following days. The resulting riots left over 500 places of worship destroyed and tens of thousands of people displaced. Official figures list the number of deaths at around 1,000, but many argue that the number killed in the rioting is closer to 1,500. 2007-2008 Kenya election riots. In December 2007, Kenyans watched in anger as election results appeared to be rigged in favor of incumbent President Mwai Kibaki. While peaceful protests were carried out, opposition supporters also organized a violent rampage which swept through the country and primarily targeted those who shared the same ethnicity as the president. Machete-wielding mobs burned down buildings and killed hundreds of people. Even women and children were not safe as the rioters targeted anyone who was not on their side. By the end of February 2008, the riots subsided, leaving up to 1,500 people dead and hundreds of thousands of Kenyans without a place to live. 1863 New York City draft riots. In mid-July 1863, an armed group of around 500 mainly white immigrants protested the fact that they were being drafted to fight in the Civil War when the rich and the African-American population was not. The group soon turned into a roving mob which looted and destroyed anything in its path. As the mob grew larger, the largely Irish Catholic rioters began to construct barricades and target the black population over the course of the following 4 days. At least 120 people were killed and 50 buildings, including churches and orphanages, were burned to the ground. 1992 LA riots. In late April 1992, America was stunned when LAPD officers were acquitted following the beating of Rodney King, an incident that had been videotaped. For 5 days, rioters looted and destroyed shops and businesses and attacked commuters and shopkeepers. Thousands of federal troops arrived to help police regain control of the city. By the time the LA riots were over, 53 people had died and more than 2,000 had been injured in one of the worst riots America had ever experienced. We hope you found this video interesting. Here are a couple other videos that you might like. Don't forget to subscribe, and thanks.